Video games are the best thing ever. As someone with a strong interest in art and cinema, I want to share with you a video game that I feel really affected me in an artistic sense. That game is Dynamite Headdy. Dynamite Headdy was released in 1994 for the Sega Megadrive by Treasure, creators of some of my favourite video games, Ikaruga and Mischief Makers being very strong examples. It was the third item I ever bought off eBay, and I got it for just over £3. With hand on heart, I can say that those were some of the best £3 I ever spent. This is a game that opened my eyes to new ways of looking at media. Before playing this game, I was very much someone who liked to look for the literal meanings in art. Playing this game pointed out to me that some of the ideas are engaging but just can't be explained. They just feel right. It's a presentation of a world, an emotion, an experience or an internal idea that matters, rather than a message that can be explained in words. Dynamite Headdy is a fairly traditional platformer, in basic terms. You play as Headdy, a puppet on a stage show who must travel the puppet kingdom to fight against the evil puppet king Dark Demon. What sets the character apart from other standard platform characters is his ability to launch his own detachable head at enemies and items, and to swap his heads for, well, other heads. There's a pig head that fires stars out of its snout, a hammer head which is super strong, an invisible head which makes you invisible, which is actually more useful than it sounds. My favourite one is the spikeball head, which allows you to attach to walls and climb up like a grappling hook. Put simply, the gameplay itself is very good. Incredibly challenging in some sections, but varied and full of imagination. One minute you'll be fighting a giant mannequin, the next you'll be flying through the air firing birds at a giant baby doll. Seriously. Most levels of bosses are set pieces, which is an unusual approach when you compare it to Mario or Sonic, but it works well. The visuals are bright and colourful, unusually so, but that just adds to a bizarre atmosphere, and there's some great music too. On an artistic level, however, let's take a look at the setting. The game is set in a puppet theatre where Headdy is the star of the show. As you play through the different levels, you are in fact acting out different scenes of the story. Rather than moving from one landscape to another, when the curtains come down, the mise-en-scène is changed, and you are now traversing a new area, but on the same stage. It's an interesting thought, and once you pick up on it, realise the world presented doesn't obey traditional video game rules, you realise that things aren't quite as they seem. There's an uncomfortable feeling as you ask yourself, what here is real, and what here is contrived, tacky and artificial, like a cheap puppet. Look at the background, and you'll see the painted canvas peeling away, the scaffolding showing through. In the fourth level you find yourself climbing into the lighting rigs to get to the end of the scene. At the beginning of boss fights, miniature men will wheel on a new background, or toy soldiers will roll on a new carpet. Each level has the stage number labelled in the scenery, breaking the fourth wall and reminding you this is a game. But apparently your objective is to defeat the puppet tyrant and save the stage show. Having each of these events labelled with a number suggests it's preordained. Is this the show itself? A level apparently set backstage contains these labels too. So has the stage been set up to look like the backstage area? Geez, this is messing with my head. It's an uncomfortable feeling, I don't know what I'm looking at. It's like a David Lynch film, but hidden under the facade of a fun, light-hearted, normal video game. You can play it innocently enough as a normal game, but when you take a step back, or look at the setting, there's something here that's not being fully explained. Because I'm controlling the hero, I'm involved in this. His being my avatar gives me an emotional connection to the world. This is worse than a film because I'm part of it. I have subjectivity. Okay, maybe I'm thinking a little too deep into this, but there's also some other elements of the game which are just plain bizarre. One boss battle sees you fighting in mid-air with your head as a plane, rocket or bird against a giant baby's head. Shoot it enough times and it'll crack open revealing a young man's head, then a middle-aged man's, and finally an old man's. Oh, and it can shoot lasers out of its eyes. The villain, Dark Demon, has a constant smile on his face, and even wears a Watchmen-esque smiley-faced badge. I doubt that was intentional. For someone who is such a big and terrible villain, he seems awfully happy and friendly. On the other hand, Headdy himself looks persistently cynical. When he speaks, he sounds kind of stoned. It's as if to say, yeah, I know, it's messed up. That's how I roll. troubled ruin, or Maruyama in Japan, serves as a major villain. A rival of Headdy is constantly trying to upstage him and become the star of the show himself. As an antithesis to our hero, Headdy, who has detachable heads, Ruin appears to be a cat's head with detachable bodies. And most of these bodies don't even look realistic. A robot arm, a flying box thing, a magic crab machine thing. It all just adds to the uniquely surreal quality of the game. It's interesting to pay attention to some of the details too. One of my favourite levels sees you turning the stage upside down as you try to destroy a robot face. One way up it is happy, and another it is angry. But in the landscape, what on earth is going on? There's little people sitting in the blocks, drinking tea, going to sleep. Why? Especially given that this is meant to be in the Dark Demon's fortress. Why are there people drinking tea? Add into this the sheer inventiveness of the whole thing. Set pieces challenge you at every corner with new ideas and concepts, while never detracting from the main gameplay style. Even by today's standards, the visuals are impressive, using visually arresting bosses, lively animation, and buckets of imagination to surprise the player in different ways. Dynamite Headdy is a game that really opened my eyes. It's not only surreal, but it's complex and multi-layered in its setup, creating a setting that's compellingly uncomfortable, that challenges what you usually expect to be going on in a game. By playing this game, I realised that you don't need to be able to make a statement in art, as it's equally valid to create a compelling sensation that cannot be explained. There's a feeling here of a world that's not quite right, but not necessarily with any justification. There's ideas and concepts that will stay in your head forever, and you won't know why. For me, Dynamite Headdy masters this kind of technique. And that's what makes it the best thing ever.